Okay, so let's go ahead and implement a Facebook login for our website. Alright, so the first thing that we want to do is you want to go over to this website called passport.js.org or passportjs.org. And it's something, it's a package for Node for authentication. It's really easy to use. So go ahead and click documentation, and then we're going to start off by clicking on Facebook. And so what you want to do is go ahead and copy this portion right here, and then go into your backend folder, which is app, and create a new folder, and we'll name that folder passport. And then inside there, create a new file called passport.js. Okay. And so what we're going to do is we're going to export this file into the server file. And so if you remember, the way we do that is module exports. Okay. So go ahead and paste this above. And so go ahead. So this top part, the passport, we're not going to need it. We're only going to need the strategy part. Okay. Now go into the server and paste passport in here because we are going to use passport in this part of the application. And then go into your console and make sure you install both of those. So it's npm install passport and then passport Facebook strategy, and then hit save. Okay, now so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and import that while we're here. So we'll name it let's say social. That gives us an idea. So require and passport.js. Okay. And so we're going to pass into that application or file, I guess you could say, or module. We're going to pass in app from Express, and then we're also going to pass in passport. And so the way you receive that on this end is you basically just turn it into a function. So you say app and then passport, and then we'll just return passport. Okay, so now we're good to go. So going back to the passport website, we can start implementing the rest of this. So go ahead and copy the Facebook strategy, and then just paste that inside the brackets. Okay, so this user.findToCreate, this is just sort of like an example, but that function actually doesn't exist, right? Because this user is pulling up your model and then using a function or a function from that model, but we haven't created that, right? So we can go ahead and comment it out, but first let's go ahead and import that user model because we will be using it. So just do that up here, require model. Oop, that's not correct. There we go. So remember, it's in the models and user.js folder. Okay. So go ahead and comment this out. However, there's one thing I do want to add, because one thing they did have correct here, sort of, was they had done null user. We actually want to type in done null profile, right? The reason for that is because basically you're telling the strategy, hey, we're done. Null means there was no error, and profile is the profile that we get from Facebook. Okay. And so they had it set to done null user because, well, that's just their sample, but there's actually no user object in our code yet. Okay. So one additional thing that we want to do is if you search passport Facebook in GitHub or Google, you'll get this page that has more in-depth explanation on it. And what we want to do is we actually want to grab this field right here, profile fields, and that's just going to allow us to customize what we want to get from Facebook. So right underneath callback URL, we're going to go ahead and paste that. And really, we can take out photos. We don't need that. We can take out display name, but I'm just going to leave it as default for right now. And so the next thing that we want to do is we want to set up this client ID and Facebook app secret. And so the way you do that is inside of the documentation website. You'll see a link up here for Facebook developers. Go ahead and click that. If you're logged in, you're going to see a website similar to mine. Otherwise, you may see a button that just says Create App. It just depends when you're viewing this video. Things change all the time. But the gist of it is you're going to go to Apps, and then you're going to go ahead and create a new app. And like I said again, you have to be logged into your Facebook. So we'll call this, let's say, user management, right? And then just assign a category, and then create Apple ID. Or app ID, not Apple. Okay. Okay, so once you've done that, go ahead and click Facebook login, get started. And then for valid redirect URLs, you're going to type in whatever URL that you want Facebook to redirect to. So for us, it's going to be localhost, right? So, okay. And then make sure to hit Save Changes. Okay, then afterwards, you want to click on Dashboard. And then you'll notice here it says your app is in development mode and cannot be used. So what you want to do is click on this little arrow. Which they really should make this a button because it took me forever to figure out that that's what you click on. And then you just change this to make yes, available to public, confirm. Alright, so now your app is live. So all you need to do is go into settings, and then here you have your Apple ID. So go ahead and copy that. I keep calling it Apple ID, I know it's app, but so go ahead and paste that over this as a string. And then go back and do the same with app secret. You have to click show. Sometimes it'll ask for your password. Copy that and then paste it over app secret. So callback URL, we're going to change this to match whatever domain that we're using. So for me, localhost. Okay. Okay, and now we're almost set to go. So now going back into documentation, there's a few other things that we have to copy. One is the routes, okay? And actually what I want to do is, this is going to look bad, but copy from this bottom one all the way up to the callback, okay? Now we're going to be pasting that underneath our strategy. Go ahead and make this look a little bit better. This is not needed. Okay. Okay, and so what we want to do first is get rid of the success redirect. The reason I say that is because if it works, we're actually going to redirect on the front end side of things, okay? And so where's the scope? Change this to email, because all we need from the user is the email. So this is our way of getting that special permission from Facebook. So going back into documentation, a few other things we need. If you want to just type in search and just type in initialize, it'll take you to this, the configuration, or the middleware, I should say. So we want to grab these three right here, and then we're going to paste that above the strategy. Okay, then go back into the website and then search serialize, and then we're going to copy these two. And we're going to paste that just same right before the strategy. So let me go ahead and, oops, fix some of this code. Okay. So, fix this, okay. Sorry, I'm really meticulous with my code, so I'm just going to fix this up. Alright. Okay, so with the example that they give you, these two are going to be fine, but actually this one is wrong. First of all, you want the session to be after you initialize it, after you call it in the middleware here. I don't know why they have that in before. And then also, this is outdated, so what you have to do is you have to go to Google and search in Express Session. You'll get this GitHub page, and then just scroll down to the bottom, and then you can just copy this and then paste it right at the top. Okay. And don't forget, you have to go into your console and install it. So npm install save. Okay. And then go ahead and search app use, and here's an example. I'm just going to copy that, and then I'm going to paste it in place of this one. Okay. And then I'm just going to fix it up really quick. And then for a cookie, make sure you change this to false. Okay. Because we're not actually going to be using this. It's just required. Okay. Alright, so we're good to go now. If you want, you can go ahead and look at your console, make sure everything is working, which it is. So now what we need to do is implement this on the front end. So we need a way to test this, to test the profile that we get from Facebook. So what you can do is inside of the strategy, just as soon as it gets into the function and pulls the data from Facebook, go ahead and type in, you can do console log profile. And so this is going to log to the console what you get from Facebook. Okay, so go ahead and head into your front end, inside of public, app, views, pages, users, and then login. And so right below, actually right next to the login button, we're going to go ahead and add in NBSP, and then we're going to add a new button. Actually, we're going to add a link. Inside the link, we're going to put a button. And so for button type, select button, and then the class is going to be, we'll say btn access. Then we'll name it Facebook. And then, so for the link, it's going to be just like here. In fact, you can even just copy and paste that. Put that right there. And then after the quotation mark, we're going to add target _ blank, and that just makes it open a new window. It's just a requirement. I don't know why it's like that, but alright, so let's go ahead and test this out and see what we get. So go over to your domain, hit refresh, and you'll see that Facebook, actually I think I messed up the code there. It's not supposed to look gray like that. Yeah, just missing an S here. Not a big deal, but anyway, so go ahead and hit that Facebook button. Let's see what we get. Alright, so if it's the first time, it's going to take you to a Facebook website. It's going to ask you for permission, and then continue. Okay, there we go. Now, before we continue, there's one important step that I want you to do. Go ahead and register for an account, and make sure that whatever email or whatever Facebook account you're testing this with, make sure that email is registered in the database. So in my case, this is the one that I'm using for testing purposes, so I'm just going to go ahead and create a username. I think I have one already, but let me just make sure. Okay, yeah, I already have one, and I believe it's, yeah, I think I know what it is, so I think I'm good to go, but just make sure you do that. Okay, so now that we have the Facebook login, let's go ahead and go to the console and see what we got. Okay, so this is that console log that we did, and this is basically everything that we get from Facebook. We get a bunch of shit we don't really need. The only thing that matters is the email, and so you'll see it's inside of the object, and it's _JSON and then email. So going back to our code, into our passport.js, the way that we grab that is we just say profile._JSON and then email. And so you can even test that. Just go back to the login page and then hit Facebook. And you'll see now it's not logging that entire object, it's just logging the email address associated with that Facebook account. That's all we need to proceed anyway. So let's go ahead and what we'll do is delete this code. We don't need it. We're going to create our own, and we'll say first copy this profile.json. We're going to use it in a minute. So we'll say user find one in our database. Okay, and we're going to search the database by email, and we're going to search by the email provided in this variable. And then we're going to select from the database the username, password, and email associated. And then we're going to execute a function that's going to provide either an error or a user. Okay, and so if we get that error, then we'll just say done error. If we get the user and that user is not null, right? There's a few different reasons why this can happen. Like if you try to log in with a Facebook account that doesn't have a verified email address, then this variable will be empty or undefined, which will create a null user, right? So we want to protect from both of those. We want to make sure there is a user and that it has a verified email, and that's how you do that with the null. So if we find a user, then we'll say done, no errors, and return the user. Else, then we'll just say done error. Okay. So now what we can do is, at this point we should have a user. So what we can do is we can create a token to keep that user logged in, right? So going back to our routes file, our API, I'm just going to copy the code that we used before to create a token, because we're going to do it the same way. So right here, and then I'll copy over the 2 up here as well. And so I'll just paste that up here. Cut this one out. Alright, so the place where we're going to create a token for the user is here in the serializing. So right below that, we'll go ahead and paste that. And we don't need this variable because we're just going to use it in this process. Everything else can stay the same because we do have a user object, and so we can grab the username and email and create that token. And so now we need a way to feed that to the front end. And so the way we do that is in our callback, right? So what you do is right here before the last parentheses, comma function request response. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to redirect the user to a page, and we'll say Facebook /+ token. And so what that's going to do is going to forward the user to a Facebook page, or route, I should say, or view. And then it's going to implement that token that we assigned up here into the URL. And then, we could do whatever with it at that point. So the next thing that we want to do is, and this is why we got rid of that success redirect. This is our success redirect right here, okay? So what we have to do now is configure our routes to actually have a Facebook page. So inside of users, create a new folder called social. And then inside of social, create a new one called, let's say, facebook.html. And we really could, actually, I want to name this social. Okay, that'll work for right now. Go into your routes and then create a new one, and we'll say .when/Facebook/token, then comma, brackets, template URL, app, views, pages, users, social, Facebook. Oh, no, I forgot I changed it. Social.html. Okay, so now let's actually put something in our page so that we know we're here. We'll say hello from social route. Okay. So now let's go ahead and test this all out. Go back to your page, hit refresh. and go to login and press that Facebook button. Okay, so here we are, we're on our social route, and here is our token up here, right? So now we need to do something with that token, right? We need to save it in the user's storage, or I mean the client's storage, so that we can keep the user logged in, right? So, excuse me, the way we do that is go into our services, into our authentication service, and we're going to create a new function called Facebook. And we'll say, okay, function, and then we'll pass in a token. Then we'll say, if token is true, if one was provided. Actually, we don't need to do that. We'll just say auth token, set token. And we'll pass in that token. And so this is going to look like this, auth Facebook token there. Copy that. And then now it's time to go inside of our controller. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new one for that Facebook page. So we'll say controller Facebook CTRL function. I'm just going to paste this in for now, but I'm going to comment it out. And what you want to do is copy that controller name and go back into your routes, and inside of this route we're going to make sure we tie in that controller. And I'm going to say controller as Facebook. Okay. And you can do is a console log testing Facebook controller. Okay, so let's hit save and hit refresh on that, and make sure you open up your console. And there we go, testing Facebook controller. Okay, so now we need a way to get that token. Well, Angular has an easy way to do that, and so what you can use is something called route params. Okay, just make sure you copy that into the function. And so what it's going to do is going to return the URL as an object. So you just want to type in .token, and that'll give you only the token. So go ahead and hit refresh, and you should see that token now. And there it is. We have our token, and so now we can do something with it, right? So we can use this function now, and we'll say we'll have to pass in auth up here. Okay. And so what we'll do is we'll redirect the user after they're logged in. So we'll say location, path, homepage, done. And then make sure up here you pass in location. So let's see what that looks like. Hit refresh. Actually, I forgot it's not token. You actually want to pass in these route params in place of token. Alright, so go ahead and hit refresh now. Alright, and there you go. It redirected us to the home page. Now we're logged in. Okay, and so I noticed an error here. It's not displaying the username. The reason for that is because inside of our passport.js file, I forgot to delete this done null profile here. Because what it's doing, it's doing all of our functions and all of our code that we did. But then we're returning the Facebook profile. We don't want to do that. We want to return the user from a database, right? So go ahead and delete that. And then if you hit log out and refresh, actually, you don't even have to hit refresh, but if you hit that Facebook button, you'll see now it's displaying the username, right? Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to test what if our user doesn't exist in the database, right? So go ahead into your database and just delete whatever user you have. Okay, and then try to log in now. Well, go ahead and log out and then try to log in. You'll notice nothing happens. It just takes you back to the login page, right? And that's because that's how we have it configured here. We say failure redirect to login, right? So we need a way to tell the user, hey, you fucked up, basically, right? Well, there's an easy way to do that. So first what I want to do is, you see this weird symbol that it's giving us here. First I want to get rid of that because, well, it's irritating. But it basically comes from Facebook. It's just a security thing that's associated with them. And so the way I figured out how to delete that is inside of our main controller. What you can do is inside of the root scope, maybe down here, just say if we'll say location.hash to whatever that is, then location hash null, right? And so now you'll notice if you hit login, right, it gets rid of that symbol that was there, right? So the other thing that we want to do now is go back into PassportJS, and so instead of redirecting them to login, redirect them to Facebook error, right? So now we can do something with that. So go into your routes and create one for that. So we'll say .when Facebook, Facebook error, then template URL, we'll say app views, pages, users, social. Actually, no. Sorry, login, not HTML. And then for controller, we'll say Facebook CTRL, controller as Facebook. Okay. So we got to play around with this a bit. If you go back into your user controller, we have to configure this so that, because if we get an error, it's going to pull up this controller. It's going to try to set the token, right? And which we don't want, right? We only want it to set the error, the token, if there is no error, right? So the way we can do this is just the same way, using this same code. We can say, so what we can do is we'll say if location.hash. Actually, no, not location.hash. So it's going to be if we'll say window.location.pathname, I think it is equal to Facebook error. Pass this up here before I forget. If it's equal to error, then we're going to provide an error here, an error of variable. Else, then we'll do the rest down here, right? Okay, and so the error variable, we'll just use what we used before, which was this one. So go ahead and paste that there, but don't forget we need to create this again. Right? Okay. And so then what we'll do is in the login page, right, so go into views, login, we'll create a third one just for Facebook. Okay, so we'll just change main to Facebook. Both of these, right? Okay, so let's see what this looks like. Go ahead and hit go to your home, or just don't go to login, but just hit refresh, whatever. Hit login, Facebook. Okay, looks like I made an error here. Let me see what it is. Data is not defined in our user controller. Oh, okay, yeah. That's because right here, we can't set it to that. Instead, we gotta set something custom. So we'll say Facebook account, or we'll say Facebook email not found in database. That works. Alright, so we'll just hit refresh. Okay, and there we're getting that error. So let's go back to the original page and let's just see that all together. Facebook. Alright, and there we're getting that error, right? Okay, so the only thing left to do now is you'll probably have noticed the annoying pop-ups. I mean, I have like 15 windows open right now just because of every time you hit this link, it opens it in a new window. So there's a way around that. The easiest way I know is just make it a button instead of a link. And so for that to happen, what we need to do is go inside of our main controller and create a new one, and we'll name it this.facebook function. For right now, we'll just test it. And so go into your login page, and you can delete this link, add in ng-click facebook dot, no, actually it's not Facebook, it's main.facebook. There we go. Okay, so let's test that out. Hit refresh. Actually go into the login route, Facebook, open up your console, and we have our test. Alright, so we know our button's working. So what I'm going to do is when this button is pressed, we're going to basically set the window location, the URL, to a different one. It's sort of like redirecting or opening in a new page, but not in a new browser window. It's kind of a cheesy way to do it, but whatever. So inside of console log, if you type in say window.location, if you hit refresh, oh, okay, you actually have the button, sorry. Oops, forgot to define that. So right up here, window, okay, we already have location. Hit refresh, hit that button. Okay, so it sends you the URL as an object, and you can kind of look at all the options that you have. And so what we want to do is kind of like manipulate this to send us to the Facebook, right? So what we need is, okay, so we're going to get host, location.host. I think the other ones, let me look at this again. We're going to do protocol. I think that's all we need. Let's see, host. Yeah, I think that's all we need. So let's go ahead and hit refresh and see what we get now. Okay, so the first one's the localhost 8080. Okay, so this is what we'll do, right? Okay, so this first one gives us localhost 8080. And the second one gives us HTTP, right? So what we'll do is we'll say set window location to window, say window.location.protocol, which is HTTP colon, plus / plus window location.host, which is localhost, plus auth Facebook, right? So it's kind of like the longer way to manually change a URL, you could say, right? Okay, and actually, I just realized I misspelled this, so protocol, there we go. Alright, so hit refresh and go over to your login page, and you'll see if you hit that Facebook button, there we go. It does the whole thing without opening any new windows or redirecting or that bullshit, right? And you'll see if you go to your profile up here, it's correctly giving you all your information from the database. Okay, so that's it for this part of the tutorial. Next we're going to move on to Twitter and then Google.